Hello, upper cervical doctors and students. Welcome back to the UCM podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bill Davis, founder and CEO of UCM Practice Growth Systems. And with me today, I have a wonderful guest, Dr. Stan Dombroski from Michigan. Welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Stan. So, Dr. Stan, you've been on the podcast, I think, a few times in the past, but for anybody out there that doesn't know you, can you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Dr. Stanley Dombroski, and nearly 23 years ago, we opened Balance Health in Western Michigan. That is. We opened Balance Health in Western Michigan, in a small town, Zeeland. When I first moved here, it was a town of 6,000. We're about 40 minutes away from the second largest city in Michigan, Grand Rapids. Since that time, we have opened a second location in Grand Rapids, and just been plugging away ever since. I grew up in southeastern Ohio on a farm, small town, and so that's what I wanted. I wanted to be somewhere where one of the criteria I had when I first started was I wanted to be able to walk to the bank, walk to the post office, and walk to a coffee shop. And the first office I had was right up on Main Street. And I searched around and searched. And this place was the exact size I was looking for and half of the rent. It was like $600 a month rent to start off with. It was awesome. And right across the street was the bank. One block over was the coffee shop, and one block past that was the post office. And I wanted that because, growing up in that small town, you could walk down the sidewalk and people, hey, and wave, and you know people. And I've told this to patients a lot. I said, one of the great things about being in a small town is when you do a good job, they tell other people about you. But the opposite is too. If you do a bad job, they tell other people about you. And so we've been blessed to be able to help people, and they were kind enough to send other people to us, and we've just been doing it for 23 years, almost.
Super cool, man. So Zeeland, small town, like you said, 6,000 people when you started. It's probably grown a little bit since then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still a fairly small town. And so what's been the practice like? Obviously, you went to two locations eventually, but getting the practice going. Sometimes people think like, oh man, I don't know. Yeah, how can you start a practice in a small town and be successful, right? How can you grow a practice big enough in a small area in order to be able to feed my family, right? And so talk about that, like starting in a smaller town and what that was like getting going.
Talked to somebody about this the other day. I said, I'm glad I was naive and ignorant when I graduated. I had no idea what I didn't know. And so I was just like, hey, I got this new thing I'm going to do. And it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm just going to put my single out, and people are going like, oh, there's a new person here, and they're going to come see me. And about 3 days into practice, I realized I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to bring in a patient. I know how to take care of a patient, but I think it was Bill Esteb that said 100% of all new patients are found outside of your practice. And so he would talk to me. He said, it's true. He goes, the new practitioners get out of school and they sit underneath their diploma and like, look what I did. And but if you don't go out and tell people about it, we've got this amazing thing, and people really are afraid to tell people about it. And when we go out, and so what I did was I would go out into the community. We would do screenings, and I know what people think of when they think of spinal screenings. They're like, oh, you're like a used car salesman. No, you're not. You're educating people who don't know what you do. And if you have something that can help somebody, you're morally obligated to tell that person about it. And so what we would do is we had this, one of the big old stand units that were like wooden and weighed like 400 pounds, had 2 scales on it. And so I would take that to, did you have Curves where you were, the workout place for women?
Oh,
Yeah. So there were a number of those in the area, and I would get a hold of them and like talk to the owner, and sometimes they would own a couple, and they'd say, "Yeah, come on in." So I would carry my SAM unit in, set it down, and I would measure people's postures in the afternoon. So I'd work 8:30 to 1, and then in the afternoon I'd go out and do screenings, and then the next day I worked 11 to 6. So I'd leave my SAM unit there, and then go back in the morning and measure postures in the morning. And what I did was just give them the information. When we talk to people about what's happening with their body, we're not selling them anything. All we're doing is we're telling them the truth. You measure their posture, and it's something we measure every day in the office. You measure their posture, shoulders are off, hips are off, their heads tilted, and on their list they have headache, neck pain, numbness in their hand, and you go, hey, you know what? This is where your shoulders are doing, your head's tilted this way, and these nerves come out at the bottom of the neck. They go into that, and they go up into your head. If chiropractic could help this out, what would you think about investigating it a little bit more? And all you do is ask, and either they're going to say yes or they're going to say no. And a lot of times they say yes, and you come in and you give them the information. And once people have the information, they generally tend to make a good decision. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about scheduling out people's care plans. And they said, well, we kind of go each time, day by day, and then I just want to leave it in their hands so they can come in when they want. And I said, well, that's nice, and I'm sure they love you for that. I said, but if you look at our country, I said, when we leave people to their own devices, I said, it turns out not good. I said, do we have a debt problem in this country? Do we have an obesity problem in this country? I said, because they're allowed to make their choices. Whenever we can put somebody on a care plan and say, this is what I think you need to get you from here to here, and we schedule all those appointments out, well, now instead of scheduling their chiropractic appointment around their coffee date, they're scheduling their coffee date around their chiropractic appointment. It's like, hey, no, I got to go see my chiropractor, then I'll meet you for coffee. And so that was a big thing for us, is when we would go out into the public and we would tell people just what we did. It made sense to them, and then we would lay out a reasonable plan for them, and it made sense to them. Then they said, great, you know what? I'm going to tell my husband to come in. I'm going to tell my friend to come in. And we give them that opportunity to refer people to us. And basically that's what we did to get started. And after a while, you get enough momentum going that carries you. You don't really have to keep doing it because you get busy enough just talking to people in their practice.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah. And that's not reinventing the wheel, right? Like that's what people have done in every city in America, right? It's like you can go out there and just talk to people and begin to educate them about what you do, and they come in the office, you continue to educate them, and then they educate others, and it just continues to snowball like that. And so whether it's a town of 6,000 or it's a town of 600,000, you can do the same types of things and you get similar results.
So, and when we have other doctors come in and join us, and we talk to them about that, I said, look, I don't care what you do. My friend, Dr. George Bernbach, he's with 5-Star Management. I love this line that he says. He says, go out and tell people a story worth repeating. And that's what, so I'll tell the new doctors that come in, I'll say, look, you don't have to want to do screenings. That's fine. You don't like doing screenings, don't do screenings. We can do massage days. If you want to do talks, lunch and learn, whatever it is, whatever you feel like your strength is, if you feel like you can sit down with a group of people and tell them a story and then get them excited about it, great. Let's do that. Let's just get you in front of people you don't know, tell them a story that makes them excited and gets them to move and do what's best for them. Now, you can't manipulate people. There are some people that go out and they've learned whatever language techniques are that are out there that manipulate people. And sometimes you'll see that in the practices that have a PVA of 6 and they need 100, 150 new patients a month just to maintain their numbers.
Right.
But if you're telling people the truth and you're doing good work, well, then you have a PVA of 60 and you only have 20 new patients a month or 10 new patients, whatever it is, that because they understand the story, they understand the importance of keeping their spine checked, keeping the nervous system clear of interference. So then you have a practice full of maintenance people which 84% of our practice, I just looked up the stats for this one, 84% of our practice are return patient visits. So they're like, the majority of people are on a care plan, whether it's a wellness plan or an active care plan, but they understand the importance of keeping their nervous system free and clear of interference. That's the key.
Absolutely. And so then, as you started to build, then eventually you said, okay, I need more help. And so you started bringing on other doctors to help you in the practice, right? And the Zealand office continued to grow. And so, talk about some of that, what you've learned as it relates to bringing other doctors in, associate doctors, and training them and helping them to be successful. What's some of those things that you found that is some of the keys as it's related to building the team?
Kind of like when I started practice, I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning. I had an idea of what I thought I should be doing. And fortunately, Dr. Paul, who was the first one to join my practice. So when we first opened, like I said, I was up on Main Street. His office was right around the corner. And like if I had a good arm, I could probably hit a rock with his office then. And he was coming over and he did traditional Palmer package chiropractic, and he was coming to my office to get adjusted. And then we were started taking care of his family. And then one day he just said, every time I'm here, it's busy. And he goes, there's families. And he goes, what would you think if we worked together? And I said, great. I said, but we're doing NUCA. That's what I do. And he said, well, I've always been interested in upper cervical. And so he would come over on Tuesdays when he was done seeing patients, and we'd sitting back on the big view box and have our X-rays and instruments up. And he came in one day and, the NUCA calculations, he's like, I had a dream last night of 3/32 and 1/16 and all this different stuff. And so I taught him how to do it. So then he joined, and he's been with me for the last 18 years. And so that's been great. So, but we've had a lot of learning along the way on what we're looking for, on what works well with us, and just the program and the steps needed to get to where we need to go. The one doctor I was really frustrated with, and because it didn't matter how much we trained on things. So in our office, we do associate training every week. So we'll have a one-on-one meeting with the doctor, and then we have associate training. So we train on things like biomechanics, X-rays, adjusting, whatever it is. We train on something every week. Well, this one doctor, we were training, and he still was not getting it. And so finally, out of frustration, I developed our success as an associate manual. And so it started with day one. Welcome to the office. Here's who you talk to. Here's what you do. Get these forms, do this. Here are the modules that you need to be checked off on before you qualify to see patients. Here's the written version. Here's the video version. And it just breaks everything down step by step by step by step by step by step. And then we can train on the manual. We can train on whatever it is, but they have it outlined right there. And that's been probably one of the best things that we ever created, because people get their expectations. They see our mission, they see our vision, they see our core values, and everything is just written out. And so when they start, they know, hey, okay, and I'm human, and so sometimes I may veer from the path and be like, oh, look at this tiny little thing over here, and sometimes they'll be like, well, that's not in the manual. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, let's bring things back here. But it gives us a guideline, a road that we can follow, and for most people, it works out really well.
Yeah, that is so powerful, right? Because it's especially when you have value, you have core values, a mission, vision, all that, and it's something that you're all agreeing to as a team, right? And like you said, sometimes even you who is leading the practice can get off course. And so when you have that, it can bring you back, everybody can bring each other back to what's most important. And that's so crucial. And so this, so the associate training manual you developed, as you said, it's not just words, but it's actual videos as well.
There's a printed version in the 3-ring binder, and then there's the same version that's the digital version. And then you just click on the link, and the link goes to the saved videos that are in the Google Drive. And you know, it is, now that I mentioned that, it is time for an update, because gosh, this videos are probably 10 years old now. And so we should probably, you know, refresh them a little bit. I know I don't know if I wore glasses then, so I look a little wiser now. So maybe that would be good.
Yeah. But it's nice to be able to, you know, like when someone's learning, to be able to refer to something, right? Because it's, you know, when you're doing, like you said, weekly trainings with people, or you're working doctors through a new system, you know, they need to be able to kind of continue to see it in different ways, right? Like you can go over it with someone, but then later maybe you want to read over those steps, and then maybe later you want to watch the video of that, and just all that, you know, because all just helps with that learning process, because we all learn differently, and we all have different ways that we need to be able to absorb that information, right?
Thing in it too are the scripts. And so another thing, like screenings, where people are like, "Oh, I'm not a used car salesman," they think the same thing. They say the same thing about scripts. I don't want to be robotic, and I don't want to. I had one of our doctors a long time ago, up at our Grand Rapids office, who went up, and I'm like, "Why are things just don't seem right here?" And so I sat down with her and I said, "Okay, let's do your day 2. Why are your numbers not? So let's go over your day 2." And as she started into it, and I looked, I'm like, what is this? I think this is nothing like our script. And she said, well, yeah, just, I didn't want to be robotic and just tell the same thing to each person. And she's like, so I just started doing my own thing. And I said, well, how many times did that new patient come in last week, hear the new patient script or the day 2 script? I said, for them, it's the first time. And I said, now, obviously, their individuals, their x-rays, their muscle scans, their things, those are all tailored to them. This is what they do. But the explanation about chiropractic, what is chiropractic? What is subluxation? Those are all relevant to each person. And if we could learn to say it the same way to each person, then we're saying the same message. And it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day or not. If you're having a bad day, your dog died, and you have a day 2 come in and you're all sad and you're just like, oh, here's your x-ray, blah, blah, blah. But if you have the script in there, then the words come out, and they still get the same value, the same meaning from it. And they understand the subluxation and how detrimental the atlas subluxation complex is. Your brain could be somewhere else. It's something bad. So scripting isn't a bad thing. It's a system. And once the system is in place, then you can kind of tailor it a little bit to your personality. Maybe now what some people will do is there is some built-in confrontation to some of the scripting. If we decide to accept your case, would you be willing to work as hard as I do? You just ask them, like, this is not going to be an easy thing. Are you willing to put in the work? Yeah, great. A lot of times people will kind of smooth that out to avoid the confrontation. You're like, well, no, what you want is just that verbal commitment. And so the scripting, I think, is the important part. And then when you can see the video and see how it's performed, then it just reinforces it. But it also, whenever a new doctor comes in with us too, they're right by my side. When we start off, they're in every appointment with me. They're by my side. And once they get checked off on leg check, they start doing the leg check. When they get checked off on posture measurements, they start doing the posture measurements. First, they start off just doing the notes. So they're basically learning how we talk, how we move, the efficiency that we use, so they get into that flow. And then they hear the script. And when you hear the script and then you read the script, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. This is exactly what they say. And this is how the patient responded to it. Because the scripts they come from here. They come from what we actually believe. They're not something that's, like I mentioned before, whatever manipulation language techniques are there. They're what we actually believe. And we just said, hey, we were saying this most of the time. Let's just script it so we know we're saying the same thing every time.
Right. And that's so important when it comes to consistency of patient education, right? Because if you don't have consistency of what you're saying on a day 1, a day 2, or whatever, I mean, you can do this throughout your whole process with patients, right? Then you don't know if you told that patient that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because like, oh, well, I told some patients that on the first visit, but I don't tell every patient that on the first visit. I wonder if I ever told that patient that, right? And instead of saying, no, I know I did because I say it that way every time, right? And so, and that just, and there's power to saying things at the right time too, right? Like it's like when if you don't say something on the first visit that you should have said on the first visit, but you say it on the 8th visit, it may not work as well. It may not be as effective for that patient. It may not be able to basically put them in the right frame of mind for everything else that needs to happen, right?
When we tell them, when we sit down with them and we say, hey, we're going to go through and we talk, and what I'm looking for are good, precise answers. And when we're done talking, if I think I can help, I'm going to let you know. And if not, I'm going to tell you that too, and I'm going to point you into a different direction. If I were to say that on visit 3, it'd be like, oh, all right, well, why did we get to this visit already? That's kind of weird.
Right.
So that's something we don't want to forget at the beginning. And we lead with that to say, hey, you know what? We're just going to talk. If I think I can help you, I'll let you know.
Exactly. So it's all about setting expectations. I mean, so even with your, obviously with doctors, associates, and everything, you want to have clear expectations. You want to have them understand that, but you want to do the same thing with patients, right? You want to set them up with clear expectations at the front end. What are they going to be required to do, right? Because if you don't give them any kind of clear expectations, then you can't hold them accountable to that. Right? Like it's like if you like when you said of, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. Are you going to do everything you can? Like that's a power of a positive confrontation moment that then you can point back to later if you said that. If you didn't say that, then you can't say that later. Be like, hey, remember when you said you're going to do everything possible to get this, to get going in the right direction or get yourself healthier or however you want to say it. You can't hold them accountable to something they didn't agree to in the first place, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with the, obviously with the offices now, so we've got the Zeeland office, it's rocking and rolling. Then you add the Grand Rapids office. And so as you did that, as you moved from the one location to the 2 locations and you expanded, obviously the team. And so the vision for the Grand Rapids location is what? Like, what are you, really hoping would happen there, and is it different than what you're seeing than you would like to see at the original location in Zeeland?
Last year, we spent the last year making a lot of changes to the state. We had some different things happen, and so went down to a part-time office, and one of our doctors was up there one day, and I was up there another day, and the overhead for that office is so low that it was, it didn't really, we could work 2 half days a week and still work well. And so what happened were some of the systems kind of got off track. We got a little lazy, and so we spent the last year really making things the same. And some of that had to do with software changes. We switched to Jane. That was a big switch. Just getting the systems the same. The new patient paperwork, the making sure the front desk is saying the scripting, and so it was. And yes, front desk has scripting too, not just doctors. They're scripting on what to say. But we spent the last year getting the systems the same, so we could take somebody from here, a front desk person, which we're going to have to do next week because we have different things happening. So one of our front desk people here are going to have to go up there and run the front desk. And so my meeting with my team lead today, she asked, she's like, so do you think there's going to be an issue? I'm like, no, it's all the same. We answer the phone the same. We use Jane the same. The payments are the same. Everything is exactly the same. So you just are sitting in a different seat. And so we're really confident about that. But my original mission was, the Olympic ring, there's the 5 rings that are kind of interlocked a little bit. Well, my original mission was to bring doctors in, teach them how to do this work, and then launch them into their practice. And so our practices would kind of overlap like the Olympic ring. And that way we can effectively reach more people. You can reach a lot of people out of one office, but if you expand over a bigger area, you can effectively reach a whole lot more people. And so that was the original mission whenever we started it and we launched our first office, and that was the first location. And life happens. We had kids and that gets busy, and so we kind of stopped really kind of pushing for that mission and said, okay, let's just focus on the growth of these two. But that vision is still kind of there a little bit. So if we have someone that comes in and they learn the systems and they grow and they're like, yeah, we got this, and they show that performance and that potential, and ultimately they want to be their own business owner, or they want their own location or whatever it is, and we're willing to have that conversation to say, okay, well, hey, what's available? Where can we go? And do we trust that person? Do we have a good long-standing relationship where we say, yep, there's trust here. We're congruent on our philosophy, and so that's still kind of in the back of my mind of like, hey, here's a possibility. But the last is, well, my kids are now 14 and 11, and so we spent those years just saying, oh, well, maybe we're not going to open another one yet. I'm just going to focus on growing them and growing the practice. And so that's been kind of our story with our second location.
Yeah. So as of right now, I believe you're hiring an associate, or you're looking to hire someone to add to the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
mm-hmm.
that person would be primarily at the Grand Rapids location. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We were not opposed to someone in our Zealand location either. But right now, we're looking for the first to be in the Grand Rapids location. So whenever we have somebody come in that they're going to be trained in Zealand, they're going to be checked off on their associate manual, all the modules in Zealand. They're going to learn the technique, show that they can do the X-rays, so they can analyze X-rays. And so that's all going to happen. And once they can do that, and they can then we'll consider putting them in the Grand Rapids office, but they have to show that they can do that first.
Sure. So if someone, is out there and they're thinking about, hey, this might be a good fit for me. I'd like to be able to practice in this part of the country, in Michigan, or in your type of an office or whatever. Like what are the kind of people that you're looking for? What's kind of your ideal candidates that you're looking for, personality types or whatever?
What I'm looking for, I'm looking for someone who understands that they don't know much, and that's all of us. I mean, we're always learning. But what I don't want is someone who knows it all. I don't want someone to come in and say, yeah, I can do this, or I already know this, and I can just do it, just launch me in and be like, okay, well, just go do it yourself. That's fine. We'd love for you to do that somewhere else. What we want is someone who is humble, someone who has an upper cervical philosophy, someone who is willing to tell people the damages that the atlas subluxation causes, someone that's willing to put in the work that it takes to learn how to create a maximal reduction of the atlas subluxation complex, meaning they're willing to work constantly on their types of pull, on their roll in, on their grip strength, on their hand strength. Someone that's willing to put in whatever it takes to be the best that they can be. That's the person we want, and someone that's not afraid to go out and tell people a story. If they're willing to talk to people and just to go out and measure a posture, you don't have to like it, but to be able to go out and measure a posture or palpate a spine and be like, oh, is this tender here? That makes sense. Why your head is tilted to the side, that muscle is tight, and if we could help you out, how would you think? Someone that's willing to be able to go out and tell people a story, and then someone that's coachable. And it doesn't matter if they have NUCA experience or upper cervical experience. We've had a number of doctors that I've taught how to do NUCA. We had one of our doctors who had a Gnostic background and moved to Michigan and was referred to us. And I was amazed at the similarities between Gnostic and Nuka. I didn't know really anything about it, but I mean, it was about 80-90% the same, which was kind of neat. We had to teach the nuances there. But someone that, even someone that has been beat up in practice a little bit, and they're like, you know what, I don't even know if I want to have my own practice anymore. Because it's something I tell students oftentimes. I go down to Life a lot, and when I go out to Palmer, we talk to students. I say, right now, you're behind the pearly gates of the pseudo reality we call college. And when you graduate, you're going to be punched in the nose with reality. And sometimes when doctors have been in practice, they're like, all right, I'm going to get out and do this. And then they get punched in the nose. They're like, and that wasn't fun. Sometimes they've been our best doctors because they're like, I know the reality of what it takes to be a practice. And you know what? I just want to take care of patients. Great. We'd love that. And so we can work with all of them. And the biggest thing is just they have to have that mindset of wanting to learn and wanting to get better.
Awesome. So, yeah. So if you're interested in this associate position that's available in Dr. Stan's office, you can go to myamazingspine.com/associate, and you can learn more about the position there. It's myamazingspine.com/associate. And thank you, Dr. Stan, so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate you. And I'm excited for, anybody out there that's listening. If you're a student, if you're a recent graduate, if you're in that early stage of practice and it's just, you're realizing, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't have my own practice. Maybe it'd be better to go work in a system that actually works and works well. Any of those type of situations, check out this associate position. It may be the best thing for you. So again, thank you, Stan, for being on the podcast. And as we always say, go team Upper Cervical.